Hello, this is Tom Fiedler. I'm the Dean of the College of Communication, and it's my pleasure to introduce Jeremy Page, a reporter for the Wall Street Journal, a Beijing correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. And Jeremy is the winner of the 2012 Hugo Shong Journalist of the Year Award for reporting on Asia. Jeremy, you did a remarkable series of stories that has been interpreted or defined by some as leading to the most, the largest scandal inside China since perhaps Tiananmen Square, and this involved the career of a Politburo member named Xilai, and your reporting linked his wife to the murder, very dramatic murder of a British businessman, and. How do you go about reporting a story as sensitive and as controversial as that in a society where it's closed to the media? What steps do you have to take, and how do you go about doing that without getting yourself grabbed and either thrown out of the country or thrown in jail?
Well, one of the biggest problems we faced was with the Chinese surveillance system, which is now so sophisticated that it's very hard to meet up with sources on sensitive sort of political stories like this one. Most people won't talk over the phone. That's been the case for a long time, but these days they're even wary about setting up physical meetings where they can talk off the record more securely. But to actually arrange those meetings, you've obviously got to exchange either a telephone call or an email or a text message, and those sort of things can be monitored either in real time or retroactively. If the authorities hack into a smartphone, for example, you can simply download your entire schedule and work out who you spoke to on what day. So all our sources are very conscious of that, and so for this we had to take extraordinary precautions. We had to buy sort of cheap burner telephones with prepaid SIM cards that weren't registered with Chinese authorities, and we would dispose of them fairly regularly. We would sort of have code names for sources and arrange fixed meeting spots and meeting times. And but on occasions I had to leave the country just to make phone calls and to have meetings outside of China. And even there I had to be wary of what mobile phone I was carrying while I was having those meetings.
This is amazing. It's almost like a journalist engaging in spycraft yourself to have to understand how to use drops or something close to that. And even as a journalist, you really did not have, at least in this case, not only was the Chinese government going to be considered hostile, I think that's fair to say, to your reporting, but you didn't have any particular support or help from the U.S. government or from the British government, even though the murder victim happened to be a British citizen. You were on your own.
That's right. No one wanted to talk about it to begin with. One of the main protagonists, the Xilai family, was keeping very quiet, as you'd expect. You know, someone at that level in the Chinese Communist Party. But Neil Heywood's family also didn't want to talk. They had their own sort of personal
British
reasons.
Businessman, yes.
Yeah, the family of the British businessman. The Chinese government, to begin with, definitely didn't want to talk about it until they had sort of completed their own investigation and worked out how they wanted to handle it politically. So it was months before they came out.
And they were behind you, so
they were months.
They had an issue of making sure whatever they came up with at least somehow smacked of in line with what you had reported.
Yes, that was what was really interesting about this case, and it's unprecedented really in Chinese political terms, is that they've had big scandals before, scandals which have taken down Politburo members. There are two particular precedents, but they were pretty straightforward corruption cases. The party investigated those cases on their own terms, and then they announced it publicly once that process was completed, and they announced that the people had been dismissed, and that was it. In this case, we were the ones sort of digging out the facts, and the media was establishing the facts of the case, and then the Chinese government was having to sort of retrospectively sort of establish an official version of events which vaguely fitted our facts, whatever, but also suited their political purposes.
And what about retribution to you or to the Wall Street Journal or to others that may have been helpful to you?
Well, I'm thankful to say that as far as I know, there's been no consequences for people I've been talking to because of all the precautions that I took, even though that slowed down the whole process. For the journal, we had our Chinese language website blocked at various points, had individual stories blocked. Thankfully, our Chinese language website is now unblocked, so there hasn't been any sort of long-term repercussions for that. But we did suffer a significant hacking attack, as has been reported in the last few months, which was very serious and targeted my computer in particular. And I believe that began soon after we broke the initial story. So there's been that, and in touch wood, we don't really know what else might happen. But so far, my visa hasn't been revoked, so I'm still able to operate. But people are certainly even more wary of talking to me than they were before, on the sort of Chinese political side.
And a final question. This award was established by Hugo Shong, who is a graduate of our college. He is Chinese. He's Chinese American now. He has his U.S. citizenship. And he established the award in the belief that it would encourage, I suppose it would encourage U.S. journalists to pay attention to what's going on, and perhaps even put more attention on what's happening in Asia to those on this side of the Pacific Ocean. Does that encourage, you think, good journalism when there are, I think, philanthropists who support journalism with awards of this kind?
Absolutely. I mean, after everything, all the hard work that we put in last year as journalists, not just myself, but my colleagues, a lot of whom worked directly on the stories with me, but there are others who didn't work directly, but were exploring other angles which didn't check out. It's an incredibly frustrating and difficult process. So for all those people, for all the sources who are talking to us, who are relying on us to report on this sort of accurately and to see justice done for the death of Neil Heywood, but also for the proprietors of the paper, to sort of convince them that it's worth continuing to invest in sort of hard-hitting, high-quality investigative journalism, which costs money.
Yes.
And to do that in Asia especially. This award is it's a wonderful recognition of the work that we did, but a huge encouragement for us to continue to do the same kind of thing in the future, and to our bosses to continue paying for it.
So well, good. Well, we're
very
delighted
grateful
to do
indeed.
it. Again, we appreciate it. Congratulations to you. We're honored that you would accept the award.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.